Hello and welcome to Kiwi Rider Podcast. My name is Ray here and great to have you along. If this is the first podcast of ours you've listened to, please do hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and we'd love to have your feedback as well. You can email me, podcast@kiwirider.co.nz. We're on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok as well. I'm here pretty much every week, but one man that we occasionally have on the podcast, it's always a joy when we do have him. We used to have him a little bit more often, but life gets in the way. It's one, the only, Matthew Day-Gillett. Hey Matt, how you doing?
Hey man, yeah, good to be back again. I do seem to flit in and out like the wind, don't I?
It's your boy's 5th birthday. I can remember when we first started this podcast, he was like 1, and now he's off to school.
Not even. Not even 1 when we first started the podcast. He was July, August, September. He was 3 months old when we started the podcast. So, yeah, time flies.
And then I remember going to a bike launch. I rode a KTM Duke, and you drove the family wagon, and we went to ride some beaters, and he came along and got amongst on the bikes.
Oh man, that's right. Yeah, and Dad came along to child wrangle so I could play on the bikes. It was actually good fun. I'd love to do another launch like that, but yeah, we'll see how things go.
Oh, it's crazy how time flies. In this show, Matt, we're going to talk. We're going to talk an update on the YSS suspension and the T7. We've got some new Triumph 400s coming, which is very exciting. Fuel's gone back up. That's in the zeitgeist at the moment. But we're going to kick things off with the top 5. And this week on the top 5 astounding motorcycle facts that motorcycle enthusiasts may find interesting.
Ooh.
In at number 5 on the top 5 motorcycle facts this week. The first motorcycle was invented in 1885 by Gottlieb Daimler and Wilhelm Maybach, who attached a gasoline engine to a wooden bicycle frame. You wouldn't even find a wooden bicycle these days, leave alone putting a petrol engine on.
You wouldn't want to ride one. Well, actually, no, you would find it. You'd find one in Africa, wouldn't you? You see all sorts of cool contraptions in Africa.
What do you think's the oldest motorcycle you've ever ridden?
I've ever ridden.
Probably your old Hyosung.
Yeah, probably. I don't think I've actually got much experience on classic bikes. Yeah, trying to think. I wanted to ride the Red Baron Vedge's R100 GS or Black Betty, which is Ben's R80 GS, but the opportunity's never quite arisen. But yeah, that's my old GT250 Hyosung, 2006. So, yeah, I've not really ridden much old stuff.
Wow.
Well, any old stuff.
My first ever motorbike was a 1984 Honda VT250F.
I remember that. It was white, wasn't it?
It was. It was a great bike. Well, it was a terrible bike as well. Top 5 list of astounding motorcycle facts. In at number 4, in the early 20th century, motorcycle sidecars were a popular mode of transportation for families, with some models featuring built-in picnic sets and even miniature pianos.
Ooh, I don't know about the pianos and picnic sets, but I do know that when my dad was born and grew up his early years in London, and my grandfather had a motorcycle and a sidecar, and one of the reasons that my dad wasn't allowed to start riding until he was in his 50s was that my grandmother was deathly afraid that he'd fall off again, because when he was a wee fella, he managed to fall off while the sidecar was in action. He fell off and granddad didn't know.
It's amazing how far health and safety's come, because my wife would not get in a sidecar.
My wife has suggested a sidecar until I point out that it would take up a decent amount of space inside her sewing room, and then she goes, "Oh yeah, maybe not."
In at number 3, on the top 5 astounding motorcycle facts that motorcycle enthusiasts may or may not find interesting, Harley Davidson is the oldest motorcycle manufacturer in continuous production, with the company having been founded in 1903.
Ooh, I might have something to say about that. I think Royal Enfield might actually have something to say about that.
In continuous production?
Continuous production. Not in the same factory. That might be the thing. But Royal Enfield, I think, started before Harley.
Oh, I'm happy to be stood corrected. If you, dear listener, know, chuck it up in the comments at the bottom of this podcast, wherever you, or chuck it on Facebook and let us know that we aren't I'm not very good at fact checking. Matt's got his phone out, so maybe we'll come back to that one.
Founded in 1901.
Oh, by 2 years. Look at that. But have they been continuously in production since then? That's the question.
Well, I think it's a matter of semantics because the original Royal Enfield company went bust along with all the other British manufacturers and the Great British Dyeing. But their Indian subsidiary or Indian plant kept on going and has been waving the flag ever since. So,
okay, so the oldest motorcycle manufacturer is either Harley-Davidson from 1903 or Royal Enfield from 1901.
Yeah, depending on how you view things.
The top 5 motorcycle facts that motorcycle enthusiasts may find interesting. In at number 2, in the 1960s, the Japanese motorcycle industry underwent a period of rapid growth, with companies like Honda, Yamaha, and Suzuki becoming major players in the global market. So, previous to the 1960s, you wouldn't have looked twice at a Japanese motorcycle, much like many won't look twice at an Indian or a Chinese motorcycle these days.
Yeah, it's interesting considering, looking in the background, there's a rather well put together Chinese-made motorcycle right behind you, Ray, that a lot of people sort of put their noses up.
I started it up the other day because it hasn't been ridden in about 2 weeks, and it's got a great exhaust tone. It really does. It sounds fantastic. Of course, for people that can't see the visuals, we're talking about the Moto Morini CMSO 6.5 SCR. Top 5 astounding motorcycle facts that many motorcycle enthusiasts may or may not find interesting. Number 1, the Isle of Man TT race was first held in 1907 as considered one of the most prestigious motorcycle races in the world, with riders competing on public roads at speeds of up to, and in some cases exceeding, 300 kilometers per hour.
Yeah, that's a hard no thanks for me.
I'd love to give it a crack, but not at those speeds. Like, there's no margin for error. You see some of those slow-mo videos of the dudes, like, grazing their shoulder on a brick wall on the inside of the bend and then swinging right out.
Because they don't have footpaths or anything on half the track. Like, you're right up against trees and walls and, nah.
There you go. That's your top 5 for this week. The top 5 astounding motorcycle facts that motorcycle enthusiasts may or may not find interesting. If you found them interesting, chuck it up in the comments below. Let us know what you thought was the most interesting. Time now for our winter riding tip. Thank you very much to Protecta Insurance, motorcycle insurance by motorcyclists for motorcyclists, trying to do themselves out of a job. If you want to find out if you could be on a better plan as far as your motorcycle insurance goes, go to protecta.co.nz. Plan for breaks and warm-ups. Riding in cold temperatures can lead to faster fatigue and decreased concentration. Plus, plan for regular breaks to warm up and rest. When stopping, find sheltered areas to avoid wind chill. Use heated grips or gloves to keep your hands warm during the ride. Take advantage of heated gear and heated seats if your motorcycle is equipped with them or can be equipped with them. Stay hydrated by carrying a thermos of something warm to drink, or stop for lots and lots of coffees. Being comfortable and alert will enhance your overall riding experience and safety. There's nothing wrong with stopping at every single petrol station you see, petrol station or bakery, for a coffee and a pie. Tell you what, BP chicken pies are brilliant at the moment. So yeah, thank you very much, Protecta Insurance, for your winter riding tip. Go to protecta.co.nz to see if you're on the best plan possible. You can do third party, you can do full insurance, you could potentially get cover for your track day experiences, a rebate if you do a Ride Forever course, and a whole lot more. They cover you for your bike and your gear. They can even cover dirt bikes, as I found out recently. So to find out more, go to protecta.co.nz. Thank you very much, Protecta Insurance, for sponsoring the segment on Kiwi Rider Podcast. Fuel has gone back up, Matt, as you choke on your dinner. Fuel has gone back up, although technically not a price hike. It's a reintroduction of the taxes that we used to have, but it is noticeable. It's gone up by, I think it was 25 cents with a tax and 4 cents with a GST or something crazy like that.
Yeah, total of 29 cents was what I read. I haven't filled up since it went up on July 1st. Have you?
Well, I actually have. So going back to the days where I used to ride the MT-07 to work every day, roughly the same distance as I do now, it cost me about $20 a week. And more recently, $25 to $27 per tank, and it was a tank per week. I filled up on Sunday. It cost me $32 in the Tenere 700, which is not a massive thing for us motorcyclists, but with the current rate of inflation, cost of living going up, that's reported in almost every media outlet to date, it is going to have an impact for a lot of people.
Oh, yeah. Yes, I'm very glad that I filled up the Marini before it all went up, because that's an 18-litre fuel tank, and I'm used to filling up maybe 9 if I'm pushing it on the rally. So, yeah, but I'm going to have to fill that up tomorrow because I'm off to Auckland to collect a test motorcycle, which is exciting.
Oh. Maybe we'll talk about that later on if we're allowed. Although I know the price of 91 up around the northern end of the country is $2.50 to $2.90 a litre. Here in Lower Hutt, or Upper Hutt, I should say, the local Z station, 91's been sitting around that $2.25, $2.35 a litre mark, which has been pretty good. $2.69 a litre is what I paid for the T7. But let us know on Facebook if you've got a petrol station in your area that's cheaper than the rest. I know generally Gulls are quite cheap because they're unmanned stations, but as far as Zeds go, that one in Upper Hutt is the cheapest I have ever seen. If you're in Upper Hutt, go to that one on Ferguson Drive. It's really good. And the Gatsby app is really good for finding cheap petrol too. Have you used that, Matt? Gatsby?
I have, but then because my incredibly long commute of taking the children to school is 5k each way, if I'm lucky. There's a Waitomo petrol station, which, like the Gulls, unmanned, and it's the cheapest in town by a good 15 to 20 cents a litre, depending on what you're getting. So I literally just fuel up there. They've got a cool little app, which obviously not sponsored or anything, but you can literally just, instead of queuing up for the FPOS machine with every other Tom, Dick and Harry, you can open up the app, select the pump you're standing next to, and pay from your phone, which is very handy. And they let you do a scratchy at the end sometimes, which is even more fun. So what I do, I don't go to any of the fancy big break.
So there you go. Let us know if you've got a cheap petrol station in your neighbourhood. Love to hear from you. The Tenere 700 is now YSS equipped. YSS suspension in the T7 has been thoroughly tested. It's been about a month since YSS cartridges and shock were fitted to the Tenere 700, and if you haven't caught up on any of my previous stories, here's the too long didn't read. I called Robert Hadley at RS Motorcycles. I needed something. I had a leaky fork seal and I didn't know what else to do, but I figured it would be a minimum need to be sprung for my weight. We decided to throw the entire book at the bike with the gold standard YSS option chosen, and the shock itself, the YSS shock, has high and low speed compression damping as well as a bunch of other stuff. I've got rebound, I've got preload adjustment. So how does it handle on the road? The big difference that was noticeable on the road was that the bike doesn't pitch its nose down when I touch the brakes anymore. Well, not as obviously anyway, which is absolutely brilliant. Also doesn't squat as much under acceleration or under my heavy lard ass. Instead, it's very, very stable in the corners, but the big change I noticed was when I got it off-road. And Matt, I know that you've been through a similar story with Rosie the Rally when you got your suspension done. Do you remember what your first ride on the bike was like when you first got it done?
Yeah, because I recorded it. I was just, wow. The first, I left Moto SR in Taupō. So Scotty Brooker and the team did my suspension on my bike. Nowhere near as hardcore as what you've thrown at the T7. Mine was just simply resprung and revalved at both ends for my lard ass. And yeah, literally went to hop on it and the bike didn't sag anywhere near as much. It's almost like it doesn't sag at all anymore. And yeah, man, like just, it felt so much sharper. And then getting on to some dirt, again, so much sharper, felt so much more in control.
Yeah, I remember that first ride. The first ride when you got on the dirt was our 40-second traverse ride, right? and you were absolutely loving it. I mean, you were no slouch off road to begin with, but with the new suspension, you were going for it. I was having a job keeping up with you.
Oh, it made it from me basically plowing into bumps and ruts, and basically the bike just plowing over it and kicking up, and it was hard work at the pace I was trying to ride it. And then, it just like that made it so that the bike was just doing exactly what you wanted it to do. There was no unexpected sort of kicks in the ass when you sort of go over a wee lump in the road. It wasn't going to bounce back up and whack you or anything like that. It's, it truly transformed the control of the bike, which is one of the reasons I still have that bike and haven't sold it and gotten anything else, because it just works so well now.
Yeah, the YSS suspension off-road is really when it shows its strengths. So similarly to on-road, where there was less dive under brakes, less squat on acceleration, but where the previous setup would deem the bike a little bit unpredictable, the Tenere 700 I'm talking about now, in rough conditions, it now tracks straight and true. So riding on rough terrain, the shock it used to hit small bumps and kind of spear off in any direction that it wanted to. It no longer does that. If you do feel the bump at all, it just rolls over the bump. You don't feel like the bike's being shaken to within an inch of its life anymore. It's just solid. It's gone from being a lumbering Labrador to a sure-footed mountain goat.
Nice. So are you going to try and sign up for one hard day at a Raglan in September now, or are you going to do like the long way round?
I did sign up for that in a kind of let me know when it's on kind of sense. The other ride was the April Fool's ride I'd signed up for, but it never actually eventuated. But,
it got cancelled because of cyclone damage, which it's now been renamed One Big Day, and it's happening in December on my wedding anniversary. So unfortunately, I am not going to be doing that one anymore. But yeah, sounds like you need to test it out at like one hard day or the Krieger long way round. The long way round's based out of Taupo, and go around the lake the long way. It sounds like a good test for the T7, man.
Absolutely. There's actually a lot of rides coming up that I want to do, but of course, being a family man, time is limited. Going from today, you and I have been talking about a Matariki mission. There's the one long day and the other epic events rides that we've been talking about, and the Yamaha Adventure Ride for 2024 has just been announced, which is when's the Burt Munro? Is that January or February?
February. It's beginning of February, that Tenere ride.
Yeah, so the Tenere ride is the week leading up to the Burt Munro, starting in Blenheim and ending in Invercargill. That is a long way.
That is basically like the Dusty Butt, which is still on my want to do list, and I think it's still going to be on my must do list before I even think about selling the rally now. But yeah, that's going to be a big event, bit pricey, I imagine, sort of something that big.
Yeah, I think it was $1,200 entry. On top of that, you've got to do your accommodation and fuel, but it is justified. It's a lot of money, like, no two ways about it. There's a lot of money there, but you do have a support person following you up. You've got mechanics on hand. You've got a person organising the road on trails that you probably won't get to do if you're not on an organised ride. So it is justified.
Yeah, that is where a lot of your money in these organised rides go, isn't it? Like I've only done the One Big Day, which is now renamed One Hard Day ride, and just the access to farms and remote beaches and stuff. You can't do it otherwise. They really grease the wheels, and the farmers end up helping you out as well. When I did One Big Day with Craig Loads, there was a farmer that literally ended up getting his side-by-side and a tow rope and dragging Craig's 1190 out of about foot-deep mud because we'd picked it up about 5 or 6 times and gave up. So, yeah, They are a lot of money, but
long story short, the Tenere 700 is an absolute dream to ride off-road. It's with that YSS suspension package, it's more like what it was meant to be as a big dirt bike, and I'm quite enjoying it. And yeah, I'm going to have to get on some of these rides and try it out a bit more.
Definitely, man. Look forward to seeing you out there.
And our final story this episode, big news out of Triumph Motorcycles, Matt. They've got a new line of 400cc Lambs bikes that have finally broken cover. Tell me more.
Yeah, so it's quite exciting. For me, at least, I'm sort of been thinking dirty thoughts about one of them. So there's two new bikes coming out from Triumph. They're both powered by the same engine. They're 398 cc's, 39.5 horsepower. And they're called the Speed 400. So it's a miniature, well, not really a miniature. It's a smaller version, Lamb's version of, say, the Speed Twin, and the Scrambler 400X, which is obviously smaller capacity version of Triumph's Scrambler line. And I think they look awesome. They look just like a Triumph should. They're completely developed from a design standpoint, and the engine is designed in the UK at Hinckley, where Triumph's based, but they're built in India by Bajaj Auto, who's a massive Indian manufacturer. We're not going to see them until January, from what I understand. They're going to be launched, I believe, next month in India, and I think they're probably going to use that as a bit of a beta test, sort of iron out any kinks before they hit the Western markets. But they look really, really cool. So yeah, like I said, 39.5 horsepower, 37.5 Newton meters of torque, 6-speed gearbox, water cooling, dual overhead cams. They're looking like they're going to be a fun bike. And I think that's what Triumph's really been missing out, apart from affordable as well, which Triumph's promising they're going to be attainable, which has also been a problem with the Triumph brand. You haven't had anything cheaper than, say, 15 grand or whatever. Like Trident's the current cheapest Triumph you can get. So now
they've really dialed in their market here too, because I see they've, on top of the 17-inch cast or alloy wheels, what are them? Scrambler gets a 19-inch front, but they've got integrated LCD screens. They've got all the information you could ever want: gear position indicator, fuel, all that stuff, digital tacho, and a USB charging socket, which I think is really going to it's the must-have equipment for younger riders. And on top of that, they looked very similar. Well, the ones I saw, they reminded me of the Triumph Trident.
Yeah, they do a bit. So they're single cylinder. They got the exhaust pipe exits sort of out of the front, almost the front right-hand side of the cylinder head, and it wraps down around the right-hand side of the bike. The Scrambler also gets slightly longer travel suspension, and it's a bit taller. Weighs in at 179 kilograms fully fueled. They got a 13-litre fuel tank, so it'll be interesting what their fuel economy is once they announce it after they've tested it all. The Speed 400 is only 170 kilos, so that could be quite a lot of fun. They've also got traction control and ABS. Traction control is switchable on both of them, and the ABS is switchable on the Scrambler. So you can actually, that's one of the things I've been looking at it and going, well, apart from the cast wheels, like that could almost replace the Honda for me, considering how little actual hard off-roading I do. But then I'm like, oh, but I like my Honda.
I haven't seen one of these in person, obviously, but I feel like Triumph have a habit of making things out of metal more than plastic as well. So I'm picking the tanks are going to be more metal than plastic. You're going to get fork guards and that sort of stuff, I'm assuming, out of plastic. But that makes me nervous in a Scrambler when you've got a metal tank, because I've seen a Ducati Scrambler with a metal tank with a nice big ding in it on a Ducati ride day.
Yeah, that would be a thing about. You'd have to be a bit, I don't know. It's a risk you take, I guess. I think it's almost a risk worth taking.
It's not a reason not to buy the bike, that's for sure.
Oh, definitely not. Like if you don't drop it, you'll be sweet, man. The crash bars is one of the accessories they've got. They've got over 25 accessories of both lined up already. I think they look like a heck of a lot of fun. Like I said, one thing that I do sort of question is the USB charger is USB-C, so it kind of limits you on what you can charge off the back.
Yeah, because most devices come with a USB-C on one end, which is the device end, and a USB-A, which is your standard USB port on the other end. That was something I pointed out when we finally found the USB charger on the side of the Harley-Davidson Sportster S and Pan America. That's a USB-C, which is, it's kind of weird to have a double-ended USB-C.
I only have one device that has USB at both ends, and that's my MacBook Pro. Like, I do have other devices that are USB-C, like I'd be able to charge, say, my DJI action cameras off it, or you can charge a Cardo off it. But you're going to have to find a USB-C plug that has USB-C at both ends, or USB-C one end and, what is it, Lightning for an iPhone?
Still the same plug, yeah. Same plug, different
I think
protocol.
Everything's going USB-C now anyway, isn't it? So maybe it's not such a big deal, but that was one thing. Pricing wise, we're not going to find out until around December, is the way I understand it. Trump's promising it's going to be affordable, but in my head, I've been sort of comparing it around what else is in the market, sort of like cheapest end, you've got the Royal Enfield Hunter 350, and then sort of the higher end, you've got the KTM 390s. Which sort of will also compete with these Triumphs. They've also got similar tech. KTMs have TFT screens, but very otherwise similar tech packages. So I'm thinking if they price it around the between 10 to 11.5 grand, I think they'll be on the money. Any higher than that, they'll sort of, I think, struggle with the other options you've got out there. Like, then you start getting into the likes of like the Honda CB500s. It's going to be, it'll be quite interesting to see what the pricing is once it is announced closer to launch. But I'm really looking forward to this. I think it's going to be great for the Triumph brand. I've always wanted a Triumph. I've just never been able to afford one. So, yeah, it's exciting times at Triumph.
2 new 400cc Triumphs coming to the market. Looking forward to it. If you want to see photos, more information and all the specs, plus the full write-up, professionally written by our man Matthew Day-Gillett, go to onthrottle.co.nz. And that about wraps up the show, Matt. I'm getting choked up about it.
Just like that.
Happening right now at the Moto NZ YouTube channel. We finally crossed over the 1,000 subscribers mark, so thank you very much if you were one of those. We've got right now the off-road test of the new suspension is the latest video. Coming up, it's a full hour-long, no voiceover or anything, but it's an hour-long jaunt out to Ocean Beach in Wairarapa, where I absolutely ruined the rims on my Tenere 700. They are not painted
I've seen the
anymore.
Photos. Are they out of balance after that? Because it looked like you're taking a chunk out of your wheel weights.
Oh, the wheel weights got annihilated. Luckily, the what are they? Lead wheel weights are very malleable, but they are very dinted and reshaped.
So they're mostly still attached.
They are still there, but also the Midas EO7s are ruined now, so I need some new tyres. I'll probably go back to the original tyres because they've still got a little bit of meat on them, and I'm going to be doing commuting for the next few months. What's happening at the On Throttle YouTube channel lately, Matt, and what do you got coming up?
Oh, well, as of this week, the latest video is actually an interview I did while I was in Malaysia with one of the product marketing guys from the Moto Guzzi factory.
Oh, is that the interview we played last week on the podcast?
Yes, that one. So I've actually got the video of that. I filmed it with video cutaways, so you can actually see what we're talking about as I cut away 2 close-ups of the bike and everything. It makes a lot more sense when you can actually see it. I've also compared, like I briefly touched on just before, the Triumph 400s to the Royal Enfield counterparts, which is the Hunter 350 and Scram 411. Basically, my conclusion there is Triumph's not trying to steal Royal Enfield's lunch. Royal Enfield is that absolute bargain basement, great value. If you make it any cheaper, it's going to be made out of lead sort of thing. Triumph's sort of slotting in above them in the market. But I thought it was interesting to compare them specs-wise and everything. And coming up, finally this week, so I hope to have a video done by Sunday, which is when I release new content on the On Throttle channel. The first service of the Moto Morini X-Cape, which has been over a month in the making. So it was end of May I crossed that 1,000-kilometre mark on the X-Cape, and since then we've been sort of juggling around sick children, sick staff at Triumph, at Moto Morini's HQ, and then I went to Malaysia and all sorts of things. So that's finally happening this Wednesday. So I hope to do a video and answer some questions on what's involved in that first service, as well as finally open up the throttle and give it a good ring. So yeah, that's what's coming up in the immediate future. And then of course we've got our planned Matariki ride, which we haven't really planned at all. So yeah, we should probably do something about that.
We really should.
I've got the time off, so I'm still in.
Go to YouTube, search out On Throttle NZ, or choose Moto NZ on YouTube. Your website, Matthew Gillett, onthrottle.co.nz. My website, motonz.com. There's Kiwi Rider magazine out twice a month, absolutely free for you to read, download and enjoy. Go to kiwirider.co.nz. Matt writes the news. I have a story in there on the first half of the suspension in my bike, and there'll be a follow-up story coming up for the magazine. Otherwise, thank you very much for your time, Matt.
No worries, man. I really should make an effort to do this more often, but I forget.
Life. Hashtag life. He's been Matt, I've been Ray. Keep the rubber side down, throttle on, and we'll catch you in 7 days' time.